Okay, turns out we're doing some enduro today.
Does anybody want to go fast?
So back in 2024, I got my first Tuttio Soleil and I enjoyed that bike, though mine is way too heavily modified for street use at this point that we can't really ride trails with it anymore. So I got myself another one. Now we haven't even gotten really far with the unboxing, but I can already tell that they've made quite a few changes since 2024. So here's exactly how the new Tudio Soleil comes from the factory. This is the lava orange edition, which is why the frame and the swing arm are no longer black. I like that they went black with the fork tubes though. Same thing with the wheels. I think it looks so much better than the original Tudio, and looks like they even changed the seat cover design now. And here's everything else that came in the box. We got the front wheel. This is a 14-inch with a 60-100 tire, 190 millimeter disc brake rotor, same thing, front number plate, decals, bar pad and mount, user manual, toolkit, hardware, foot peg, spring, and the mounting hardware for the foot pegs, fork guards, rear fender, front fender, and the charger. Even the charger is freaking orange. This is a 54.6 volt 2.5 amp hour charger, so this is still a 48 volt bike. Let's put this thing together and get a closer look at what they've changed since 2024. Make sure you slide the throttle onto the handlebar before you try to mount it on the fork. Since I don't have a bike stand at this garage yet, we're just going to be using this Home Depot bucket. There are two wheel spacers for the front axle. The slightly longer one goes on the side where the brake caliper is mounted. And before we put the front wheel on, I'm just going to add a little bit of grease to the front axle. So I already had the battery hooked up to the charger overnight, just to make sure we are fully charged for today. It is nice that they leave the Bluetooth dongle for the far driver controller just hanging out right here, so you don't even have to take the cover off anymore. But unfortunately, I don't have my Bluetooth dongle at this house, so we're not going to be doing any tuning today. We'll save all that for the modifications video. I know these newer Tudios come speed locked from the factory, so we're just going to get that out of the way. I believe there are two different ways that we can unlock the speed on the new Tudio. One is to access the P settings, which I'll show you in a minute, but I think there's actually an easier way, which is just keying on, holding the left brake and the M button. Just held it for 5 seconds. There's no confirmation or anything, but let's go to Sport. And now it goes 37 miles per hour instead of being locked at 20. Another way to do this is to hold the M button and then key on to access the P settings. And then you go to P10 which mine now shows 0 all across. I think it shows 20 from factory. And then you can just change the figure from there. It goes all the way up to 31. And then when you go to 0, that's when it actually has it fully unlocked. But there's no point of doing all that since I just showed you the easier way to do it. Last thing that needs to be installed are the foot pegs. Would have also been nice to have a pair of needle nose pliers for any sort of cotter pins. Just working with what I got. So what's new for the newest version of the Tuttio Soleil? This is the LO or Lava Orange edition. I believe the base model still comes with a flat bill fender and flat rear fender. Correct me if I'm wrong, but that's the biggest change that I've noticed so far is this looks so much better than the original model that came out in 2024. That was actually the first thing that I modified on my personal bike. Mine didn't even come with a front number plate, but this one comes with a ODI style front plate, which is what people usually upgrade to. And just those two parts alone makes such a huge difference up front. This rear fender also looks so much better than the previous one, which was also just a flat piece of plastic. I ended up installing a Sur-Ron extended rear fender for mine, but I'm glad that I don't have to do any sort of modifications on this one. And then the updated seat cover that they're now using is not just a visual change, but it is also a gripper style seat now. They have these added along with a different grippier material, so it's going to be a lot easier for you to hold your position on the bike. It's certainly an upgrade from the original smooth pleather material that they were using. They also added this magnetic kill safety switch, which is good for newer riders. You can take this strap and wrap it around your wrist when you're riding. If you happen to fall off, it'll deactivate the throttle completely. And so in case you drop the bike on the throttle itself and it breaks, it's not just going to run off on you. And then it'll reactivate the throttle once you have the switch back installed. The display also looks quite different than the original one. Functions appear to be the same though. You just have the 3 different modes here in the bottom right: Sport, Eco, and Touring. Sport is obviously going to be the fastest at 37 miles per hour. We'll test everything else out on the road. Battery level top right, speedometer top left, and you have your odometer trip meter at the bottom left. The handlebar does look a little different. Seems to have a satin finish now. I'm hoping that it has a stronger material than the previous one. Brakes appear to be the same exact hydraulic brakes that they were using in the past. Same thing, 190 millimeter disc brake rotors, front and rear. Rear sprocket is a 60 tooth combined with a heavy duty 420 chain. Same gear ratio as before, but the sprocket looks a little bit nicer now. Hydraulic fork up front, and this is a nitrogen air-filled shock for the rear. Both have been blacked out now, no longer orange. I gotta say, the bike does look a lot better now. It kind of has like a KTM style theme going on. Baby, how do you feel about the new Tudio? Do you like that it's a 48 volt? Do you wish that they came out with a 60 volt Pro version with a 1714 wheel set? Ooh, seems like she liked that idea. We might have to make one. So apparently these newer models now come with a little bit more torque. The powertrain is still rated the same, 3,000 watts, 48 volts, 21 amp hour battery. These things now make 220 foot-pounds of torque, so we'll see if it feels any different on the street. Just gonna start off with a speedometer accuracy and speed test on mode 1. With full throttle, it's showing 13.9 on the display, but it's showing 13 on the GPS. Let's see mode 2. Seems to be capped at 24 miles per hour on the GPS, 25.2 on the display. And then mode 3. Seems to be about 33, 34 miles per hour. All right, let's try that again. Mode 3. Mode 3 is definitely capped off around 34 miles per hour, 36.4 in the display. So the speedometer is actually pretty accurate. It's only 2 miles per hour off at top speed. It's actually been a little while since I've ridden my Tudio, but I've been riding quite a few electric bikes recently, such as the Hay Bike, the Vipku, my Yasma, ETM RTR, and one thing I noticed hopping back on this is the bike feels actually kind of big compared to everything else except for the Vipku and the RTR, which is definitely something to consider if you're looking for an electric pit bike and you're a taller rider. I'm not tall by any means. I'm only 5'8" with a 30-inch inseam, 180 pounds. And the stock handlebar height and seat height are actually pretty comfortable for me. Now, after testing multiple times, my top speed is 34 miles per hour. You could probably hit that 37 mile an hour top speed that they claim if you're a smaller rider, like 120 pounds. But overall, performance is pretty similar to the original Tuttio Soleil, at least on the street. Let's see how it performs off-road. I want to see what kind of lap time we can get on the new Tudio LO in comparison to the other bikes that we've tested on this track so far, such as the ETM RTR, the Yasma IN10 Pro, the Vipco H3, and the Hay Bike Villain. I also tested the Q's HP 131EL, and that thing's a monster. I think I got like a minute and 46 seconds. The closest spec bike to this, I guess, would be the Vipco H3, which I got 2 minutes and 2 seconds on. And then closest to that would be the Hay Bike Villain, which I got a minute and 54 seconds on. And since I'm just using the stopwatch on my iPhone, it might be 2 or 3 seconds off since I have to reach for my phone to start and stop it. But we'll run the footage back later on to confirm the exact time that we got. Ready? I can already tell that this is definitely going to be faster than the Vipku. Come on. All right, it's looking like a minute and 56 seconds. I'll confirm the exact time on the screen. The Tuttio Soleil LO is definitely faster than the Vipco H3, but I gotta say, it doesn't feel like it has as much torque as the Hay Bike Villain, which is a few seconds faster just because it picks up speed quicker from a stop. I think that bike just makes a little bit more torque than this with the 52-volt system. As far as the suspension and brakes, it feels identical to the previous model. I don't really see a reason to upgrade it if you're just gonna stick with the factory 48-volt drivetrain. You may want to consider better brakes if you're gonna upgrade to a 72-volt system, which I should be doing on my other Tudio next since that bike goes over 70 miles per hour. And I'm still on the stock brakes. Same thing with the wheels and tires. The stock tires grip pretty well for just light trail riding. It also rides just fine on the street, though I do have a set of Supermoto wheels on my other bike since that's my dedicated street bike at this point. But I am thinking about putting a larger wheel set on this, kind of like what comes on the Yasma IN10 Pro. But I don't really think that it's the best idea to add more rotational mass on this with a stock 48-volt system. I kind of wish that there was a Tuttio Soleil Pro model with at least a 60 or 72-volt option, but that would probably make the bike cost over $2,000. Let me know if you guys want me to build something like that. If you do want to get more information on the new Tuttio Soleil LO or any of their other new options, make sure you check out the listings in the description below. You can also save yourself some money on any of the their bikes using discount code PATOutdoors. So as of right now, we have about 2.7 miles on this charge. I'm just going to keep running it at mode 3 until it completely dies to get a true range test out of this, since that seems to be a super common question on my channel on these Tudios. I know this bike has a claimed range of up to 45 miles with the stock 21 amp hour battery. How realistic is that for my use case scenario? I think it's a bit unlikely, especially if I'm riding on sport mode on rougher terrain. But if you're on eco mode going 10 miles per hour on a super smooth flat road, you might be able to get close to 30 to 40 miles. But that's simply not how I ride. So we're going to be doing this range test on mode 3, at least mostly on the grass. Keep in mind, I'm 180 pounds and we've already put almost 3 miles on it, doing a trail ride and doing a top speed run on the street. So I'm going to try to cruise around 25-30 miles per hour on mode 3, and I'm just going to do a bunch of loops at our property just to help wear in my trail a little bit more. And I'm just going to keep going non-stop until this thing completely dies. Change of plans. I'm just gonna keep maxing it out until the battery dies. It's a lot more fun to ride in the 30-mile-an-hour range. And sometimes I forget how much more fun it is on these smaller bikes. Like 30 miles an hour on this little track feels like I'm going 50 on a big bike. All right, battery check at 5 miles so far. We're looking at 1 bar down. Still got a good amount of torque. Still accelerating pretty good. I don't really think it matters how old you are, what your skill level is on riding. I think everybody should have at least one pit bike to keep around in the garage just for messing around like this. You know, I've had quite a few hobbies over the years, between paintball, shooting, cars. Modifying cars was hella expensive. I don't think I'm going to do that again for a while. But these pit bikes, they just give me so much joy for such little dollar invested. Like being able to do this for $1,400 versus turbocharging my car for $7,000 and then just sitting on my driveway for the last 2 years. I would say buying a pit bike is definitely a win. But I guess you could also say the same about my other Tudio, which I've modified so much for street use that I don't really use it for trail situations anymore. So it just kind of sits in the back of my garage for the last few months now. I am thinking about redoing that or potentially transferring all the powertrain stuff onto this bike. That would be absolutely insane to have over 14,000 watts of power, 72 volt Tudio with a bigger wheel set. Like that could potentially be an RTR killer. Shit, that might even give my Sur-Ron Ultra B a run. Still accelerating pretty good. So I do see the battery gauge starting to go down. All right, we are exactly at 10 miles on the odometer, and battery gauge is at halfway, under load at least. Still has decent acceleration though. I am starting to feel a little bit of the voltage sag happening. Oh yeah, you can hear it. It's starting to have the power delay. Now something to keep in mind with this type of range test that I'm doing is this is specifically for dirt riding. Like if you're just planning on riding around town, stop and go traffic, neighborhoods, you're definitely gonna get a lot more range than the result that I'm about to get right now, since you likely have to make stops at traffic lights, talk to friends, get directions and whatnot. So like I'm really milking this battery for all it's got constantly with no rest. So this is going to be absolute worst case scenario, which is usually the opposite of the range test that I've seen people do in the past. All right, we just clicked over 15 miles on the odometer, and I'm honestly surprised that we're still going over 25 miles, 30 miles per hour. I would have expected it to lose a lot more torque. What's up, neighbor?
Look at that little thing. That's awesome.
I'm just testing out how many laps I can do and how many miles I can get per charge.
Oh, yeah. Sometime you want to go back and look around.
You know what? You want to do that right now?
Sure.
Yeah, I'll follow you. All right, guys, slight change of plans.
Do you have a chainsaw?
Yeah, I do. I got a Husqvarna 450.
They're nice.
Yeah, I love that thing. It'll cut whatever I want.
Yeah.
Okay, turns out we're doing some enduro today. Oh man. Tudio's running out of juice. Stuart's gonna be like, still made it up. Yeah, I can tell this thing's starting to run out of battery.
I got the bulldozer guy to make this one back here, and he also did this one.
Man, I really love this section of your trail. So what do your son hunt here? Like, what is he even?
Turkey and deer.
We have bear here?
Yeah, they'll show up. I want you to think of this, all of it, as yours, to use as you want.
Oh, you got yourself a deal. I'm going to be riding all over your place now.
Awesome. That's awesome. Does anybody want to go fast?
All right, this thing is officially on its last leg now. Battery light's actually flashing while we're riding. Now we're just about 150 yards from the house and the bike won't go over 5 miles an hour really. I'm gonna call this officially dead at 18 miles on this charge. So we got about 18 miles on this charge on mode 3 the whole time pretty much with a top speed run and mostly trail riding. I did about 13 miles of that around this grass loop and then finished off at Stuart's property checking out his trails. That's pretty much what I was expecting out of a 48 volt 21 amp hour battery like this with a 3000 watt powertrain. Obviously if we were on mode 1 on the main road going 10-15 miles per hour, we could probably get 30-35 miles out of it maybe, but my use case scenario, it's about 20 miles per charge. Let me know what you guys think of the new Lava Orange edition and if I should turn this into a trail bike. I am thinking about making my own version of a Tudio Pro with a 17-14 wheel set and a little bit more power. I'm probably gonna have to wait before I start modding this though, just because we bought that Ultra Bee, which my buddy crashed last week and I still gotta diagnose what's going on with it. So that's what I gotta go take care of now. But if you enjoyed today's video, do me a favor and hit that like button. And if you like this kind of content, want to keep up with some of my bike reviews and some of my projects, make sure you subscribe to this channel and turn your bell notification on. But this is going to be it for today. Thank you for watching.